This week's podcast is brought to you by me, Ray. I'm going to take this opportunity to apologize to our faithful listeners. We're up to over 500 subscribers now, and to my partners, Ron and Flad. Notice the intern title removed. For my lack of availability last week and poor performance overall with my picks the last 2 weeks, I've been humbled, and I'm grateful you guys could pick it up for me and deliver a great show last week with good information and plenty of banter. All right, enough with that. Let's do it.
1, 2, 3.
Turn it up.
Welcome back to another rendition of the Sports Betting Brothers podcast. I'm Ron, got Ray here. No Flad this week, as he mentioned last week's podcast. If you hear this, hope you're having fun, buddy. Wish I was with you. But nonetheless, the show must go on. We're going to bring you a Week 7 college football, Week 6 NFL preview with a few picks. But first, let's talk about last week. Ray, I did speak to our HR department, and they did say you claimed PTO last week. Hope you enjoyed your time off. Fill the listeners in.
Yeah, I mean, when you've been doing this as long as I have, or excuse me, as we have, Ron, I think I've garnered some PTO time. It's added up. I've never really taken a week off, and I just felt like I deserved to be paid, and I was curious to see what you guys could do without me, and you guys put on a good show, especially Flad. Flad,
I thought you really stepped up.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, and unless you disagree, I think we remove his intern status.
You like that?
So a little review here.
We are doing this show via FaceTime, so bear with us here if there's any audio drops. I think we have the best connection possible. Each going 60 meg internet, so we'll see about that. What did you do last week? Where were you? Why were you MIA?
I was traveling with one of the faithful listeners, and we went down to the University of North Carolina to visit another one of the faithful listeners. Went with Casey and to visit our friend Mark, and we caught the Notre Dame North Carolina game. Checked out the campus. Overrated campus. Overrated fans, I would say, just didn't show up, to be honest.
Well, early in the year, you circled this game as a potential, not game day, but like a big game for both teams. But UNC's really, really been disappointing.
Yeah, so, their fans were disappointing, too. The weather wasn't the greatest, but, Casey and I are big fans, so...
You have a thing to going to Notre Dame games and getting shit weather.
Yeah, I was at the Clemson game a couple years ago when it poured and it was raining there, but we had great seats. We were 7 rows up in the end zone, so I can't complain.
Yeah, and hey, we're both going to be going to some games here. I have tickets for the Ohio State-Penn State game, trying to currently get tickets for the Michigan-Penn State game. So, we're still going to bring you quality shows.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. Like
we talked about last week, any thoughts on the Sixers? They do play tonight. You want to get your moment here with them?
Yeah, I won't say too much because I know we are looking at doing an NBA preview podcast. We're getting some stuff together for that, but just in general, I mean, I know this team's coming in with a lot of expectations, a lot of exciting young players. Joel Embiid's going to play tonight in the preseason game. This is Wednesday. We're recording this. He's going to play. Curious to see how he does. Ben Simmons has been great so far. I think he's been, as advertised. Markelle Fultz a little underwhelming, but you got to remember he's 19 years old. The question with this team is, can they remain healthy? And how quickly can they gel together with some of the veterans that they picked up? They're going to be a fun team to watch regardless. And I know you're not a Sixers guy, Ron, but, being at their on local TV all the time, I'm sure you'll be tuning into their games.
I watch a lot of their games, more so than any other team. I still, we talked before the podcast, I think a lot of fans are expecting playoffs. They're like, oh, yeah, definitely playoffs. But they're still young. It's still going to take, some time to mesh together. And, it's just going to take time. It's not, it is a process. It's not going to happen.
Was that an intentional drop of the word process, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a process. It's not an instant. It's not. Let's win, it takes time. So,
do you trust the process, Ron?
I don't. In the NBA, I do not. Other sports, I do. NBA, it is free agency is something needs corrected with the way the caps are set up and these super teams. I find it really hard for teams to build through the draft. Not saying they can't do it, but you need to strike gold multiple times in a row to make that work.
That's fair.
The Warriors did it, and that might be an outlier, but
you could argue the Thunder did it too. So
yeah, I just think it's really, really hard, and being the Warriors and having LeBron on in the Eastern Conference, it's never going to be easy. You don't I don't know. It's just not easy. It's not as easy as people think. So I don't. The Warriors are the clear favorite. They're clearly going to win again, pending a major injury. I might be diving in too much here before the NBA.
No, I think it's awesome. I know I personally am ecstatic to do one of these. We've been talking about it for a while. Like, we're huge NBA guys. We watch a lot of it, so I'm excited to do it. But Ron, why don't we go ahead and just move right into football?
I have a few more sports topics here.
Really? Wow. Is this the new way the show's going? I love it.
Yeah. MLB playoffs. All the games but the Nats-Cubs series have been very exciting to watch. Lots of runs being scored. Steven Strasburg is actually pitching right now. He has the flu. He's almost through 6 full innings. Looks great somehow. This might be the all-time flu game.
I don't know. I don't know what I think about that. I mean, I'm a big Strasburg guy, but he wasn't going to pitch apparently. And how do you not get geared up to pitch? I don't know, man. You got to go out and give your team something. That whole thing was pissing me off when I was listening to all that. I mean, he's out there now, and he looks great. So
yeah. Another thing, give me a moment here. I know you claim to be a U.S. soccer fan, but
yeah.
I follow them. I wouldn't call myself a super fan. I know a lot of people just tend to, oh yeah, I'm a fan, let's go to the local bar and watch them and drink and have a good time. But I genuinely watch them and enjoy and root for them. But last night, they're in the stages for qualifying for the 2018 World Cup, right? They need to draw. They're playing Trinidad and Tobago, one of the worst teams in their group. They proceed to lose 2-1. They were down 2-0, scored a goal right after halftime, 2-1. Nonetheless, the game ended 2-1. And some other freaky stuff happened. 2 more upsets happened in the group play, in games going on simultaneously. And turns out the USA does not qualify for the World Cup. So for all you people that are took for granted that the United States would be in the World Cup in 2018, they're not. There's no way they can get in. It's over. So, they're going to be sitting on their couches watching the World Cup next year. And, a lot of people are angry. They want some people fired. Something's got to change. Just not happy for, a country that pours arguably more money into youth programs and their national league, the MLS, than any other country, and they're not in the World Cup.
Well, I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but I do have some thoughts. Listen, to me, do I watch the games when they're big games, like World Cup games and things like that? Yeah, I like to be in the environment and watch it, but do I follow them? No. Am I going to be upset that they're not in it? Not really. I just think soccer's just not a big deal in the United States. It's not close to being the part of the big four. I don't particularly care about it that much. I follow all the other major sports for the most part. I don't really care about soccer at all. I couldn't tell you anything about the MLS. I couldn't probably name more than a handful of players. I don't follow international soccer. I couldn't name more than a handful of players. If anything, honestly, man, I watch the women's soccer stuff more because they've actually been relevant. But as far as this goes, here's my thoughts. A lot of kids just stop playing soccer when they are 12.
I never played soccer.
Yeah, a lot of kids play when they're young and they just stop playing. And one of the biggest issues with soccer compared to other sports is the whole club thing.
Yes,
and collegiate stuff too. Kids are in college playing soccer and not playing professionally like they are. When kids are 15 or 16 years old internationally, they're playing professionally. Our kids are still in high school playing or playing club stuff, or they're going to college and they're not being trained professionally like some of these other countries are. So I think that's part of it, but just an overall lack of the best athletes in America are not playing soccer. So
I've had that argument many times. Would LeBron James be the best tennis player in the world? Probably. It's just, but It's not big in America. It doesn't get a lot of coverage. It's not attractive to people watching TV and whatnot. But I did think soccer was gaining a little bit of momentum when they have Christian Pulisic. He's a young guy from Hershey. I don't know if you know that, but nonetheless, it's kind of his team moving forward. I believe he'll be 24 when the World Cup, or when the U.S. has a chance to qualify for the World Cup in 2022, which they might be hosting. So maybe they ramp up for that to put out a good showing for that. But nonetheless, here we're going to take a little break here, and we'll dive into some games that we saw last week. Gonna look at a couple games here that we watched last week. Ray was out, but he was still able to do his homework and research these games and be on track. He doesn't want to be behind the eight ball, so he did a good job. Some of the games we got to see here Thursday night: NC State, Louisville. Ray?
Yeah, this was one that I was at my home for watching. Ron, we actually talked about, hey, do we want to bet anything in the Thursday night game? And I was like, hey, some people are on NC State, and I remember you were like, yeah, really, are they? And we didn't end up putting anything on it, but NC State with a great showing. They win by 14 points, 25-39.
They did get a pick six late to win by 2 touchdowns, so the game was closer than advertised.
Sure, no, that's fine, that's fair. But still, they win this game, and they were a dog, and I actually thought, I told you, I thought they should have been favored. Thursday when we talked about it, and this NC State team's surreal. They have a tough loss to open the year and against South Carolina, and they've won out. They're 5-1. They're ranked. They're a legit contender in the ACC, I think.
Yeah, no, that 5-1 undefeated in the conference, I think you have a chance, to do anything. You kind of control your own destiny.
Yeah, I've been kind of following NC State a little bit just because Notre Dame has them on the schedule, and that's going to be a tough game for them. So I'm looking forward to it.
Moving forward here, upset of the year potentially. Oklahoma had not an upset of the year, but I thought performance of the year when they beat Ohio State. They proceed to lose 38-31 to Iowa State, in which a game I detailed last week, I took the over. I did say Oklahoma led the all-time series 70-5 or something like that. One of the most lopsided matchups in college football. But nonetheless, Iowa State, they were down at half, and they just played a complete second half, and they kind of caught Oklahoma sleeping. Oklahoma ran out to a 14-0 lead. Did they take their foot off the gas? Maybe a little bit, but I just don't think I'm going to say this, and I to be a real competitor, to run the table. If you're in a situation where you have to run the table to make it into the college football playoff, I think you have to have a good defense, and I think that's my apologies, but no. So this was upset of the year. I'm going to talk a little bit later about Iowa State, but. It might be impossible for Oklahoma to make the playoff now. They still have to play Okie State and TCU, so it's going to be tough.
Yeah, even if they win out, that's such a bad loss. They were a 30.5-point favorite. Yep. That's a huge spread. This wasn't a 7-point spread or anything. You're at home, and you're favored by over 30 points. You got to win this game.
Absolutely.
A touchdown late, to go ahead, and Oklahoma has time left to score and tie it up, and they don't get it done. So, no, an embarrassing loss for that program. I thought that team was going to be a shoo-in for the playoff after the first few weeks.
Yeah. Moving on, a game you had picked, LSU 17, Florida 16.
Just before you even get into it, I am just I had a chance to catch some of this game at a bar before we went over the stadium, and I was following it on my phone and staying involved with it. It's just unbelievably frustrating because
Florida closed as a dog.
Yeah, I saw that actually. They depending on where you looked, but I think it was right around LSU minus 1.5.
Yeah, almost flipped completely.
And they would have covered. We ended up getting it, I think, at minus 2.5. But the frustrating part about this is that LSU played pretty good in the first half. I remember you texting me earlier, LSU was dominating. Well, Florida pretty much dominated the second half. The thing that just annoys me, I hate this about college football, and I guess it makes it fun sometimes, but it's so annoying. The kickers. The dude misses an extra point. This should have been an overtime game. And the dude misses an extra point that has them lose by 1 point. I'm like so confident that if they go into overtime, Florida wins this game. It's just frustrating, man. It's just frustrating.
And they win in the swamp. I don't know. That's such a big rivalry after what happened last year that, it just, I don't know. It's tough, man. Another game I got to catch here. This was game day. TCU 31, West Virginia 24. This game was 7-3 at halftime. I did get to catch the second half at the Sandwich Factory. For you locals, great underrated sports bar.
Is it? I've always thought about checking it out. Is it fun?
Dude, it's great. It's a great spot.
Lots of people there?
No, not really, but there's a ton of TVs. They had a pool table. I was drinking the High Life.
Wow.
Just watching this game. It's nice. I highly suggest it if you've never been there. But, like I said, just sparks fly late. TCU just, every time West Virginia answered, TCU had an answer for it. And, this TCU team's going to have some tough tests coming up. They do travel to Kansas State next week in a night game against Snyder, which is never easy. So, this TCU, they're another team. They control their own destiny. And, I do think something about this TCU team, it's not the TCU we're used to seeing. They have a good defense.
They traditionally have under Patterson. They had a year or two where they hadn't, but
their offense isn't what it was, but, it's good enough to get the job done so far. So, that might be, people wrote this team off. Everyone picked Oklahoma out of the Big 12. But,
yeah, myself included. I mean, I'm a TCU guy right now, the current student, as we mentioned multiple times. So, funny thing about this, Ron, the total at this game, like when all said and done, 31-24, you add that up, that's 55. Buddy of mine who I traveled with had this game in a 3-team 10-point teaser as far as the over-under goes. What do you think he had for his total?
57.
55. So he pushed and lost.
Wow.
We didn't think there was a chance in hell it was going to hit based off the first half, but that's just we said we were lucky enough to even have it get there, but that's frustrating. So
teasers are not. I don't like including totals in teasers.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if it hits, we don't say a word, but I kind of agree with that.
And shout out to Lee Corso for his 300th headgear pick.
Yeah, we're Lee Corso guys.
Hoping to catch.
Quick little side note, Ron. I don't know why, but I was looking at just some stuff today of like most hated like people in sports, and Lee Corso was on the list for some things. Like, how is he on there? How do people hate Lee Corso?
I think he's old, and I don't know. Maybe people think he needs to be off. I don't know. I personally enjoy it. I think he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's great.
The careless attitude and their relationship with those guys is great. I mean, I think it's a good dynamic.
Oh, there's nothing better. Yeah.
But he makes his 300th pick, and I'm hoping to catch game day here. I like to think next week Notre Dame has a chance. Notre Dame USC has a chance. Penn State Michigan could be a spot, but the following week Penn State does travel to Ohio State, so I'm really hoping that's game day.
Yeah, I agree.
Catch my first game day. Moving on, Alabama 27, Texas A&M 19. A lot closer game. I believe the spread was 27.
Yeah. I thought Alabama was going to roll.
So did I. I bet them in a teaser.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I was just surprised A&M with their like heavy freshman offense kept it close.
They scored with 17 seconds left to, not that Alabama wouldn't have covered, but makes it closer within one score. Big upset, another huge upset. Not huge, I guess, but Michigan State 14.
I think it was a huge upset.
The 10-point upset.
Yeah.
Big brother, Michigan State. They detailed this rivalry all day on game day, and the more and more I thought about it, it's like this matchup has so much hype that you just had a feeling that it was going to be a close game, and Michigan State did. I think they had one first down in the second half. Michigan turned the ball over 5 times. Michigan State did only score one offensive touchdown. Just an ugly game, a Big Ten game, that you're used to seeing from 10 years ago. But still don't think you can write off this Michigan team. I'm going to talk about that more later when I get into my picks.
Yeah, ugly game. It was raining. Ugly game. It was raining a lot. Shout out to Michigan State. They got it done. It was cool to see that. I was in a bar watching the end of this game. And everyone there was rooting for Michigan State, obviously, and for us Irish fans, I'm happy to see Michigan State get that win.
Yeah, I mean they throw themselves into contention in the East. I don't think they're going to get it done. You can't have 50 yards of offense and only one first down. You can't go 3 and out in your first 6 drives in the second half and expect to win games. So, maybe I was surprised to see Michigan State in the top 25. Honestly.
I mean, they have one loss, man.
I know, but it's just ugly, man. They're a team I'm going to probably fade here at some point, but
maybe this week against Minnesota. Row the boat.
Yeah, right. Another interesting game. I'm not going to dive into anything here, but there's an interesting little tidbit about it. UCF 51, Cincy 23. Do you know what I'm going to say about this game?
I have no idea.
They only played 3 quarters.
Huh, interesting.
They called the game due to weather.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah. Blowout. UCF's legit. I'm going to talk about them later. I'm foreshadowing all my picks.
Yes, you are.
Wazoo 33, Oregon 10.
Dominating performance from Wazoo, number 8 in the country now. I think they're legit, man. I think they're legit. They can play a little bit of defense this year, which makes them scary.
Quarterback. So, how much does that change it? I don't know. I don't think he's worth 23 points, but this is a play we did take Wazoo late.
Yeah. So
we had a decent day, up to that point. 2 more games here. Stanford 23, Utah 20. Kind of odd to see that fall. I thought it was either going to be a Utah win or a Stanford blowout, and none of that happened. It landed right between. You had to lay anywhere between 5 and 4 with Stanford, and I still think Stanford was the right play. Bryce Love's legit. I think him and Saquon Barkley are the top 2 for Heisman. Bryce Love's really, really good.
I think you got to throw the kid from San Diego State in there too. He's legit, man. I'm blanking out on his name right now, but he's a legit player. He is
He's good. Last game here. This is something you may never see again in your lifetime. Western Michigan 71, Buffalo 68, 7 overtimes. Just a barn burner of a game. The one Western Michigan dude scored, and his sister, she's probably drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Her name was probably Becky, and she came running on and like, "Oh my God, Michael, nice touchdown!" And like they get a penalty. Like, how does someone run onto the field and hug a player? What if she had a gun? like seriously, where's the security? I really, really question that. That's scary.
I don't know how did I not hear about this?
Just an unbelievable game. I saw it, and I was with my girlfriend. I was like, "Oh, there's a college football games in 3 overtimes," and like, "Oh, it's gonna be over soon." They have to start going for 2, and nonetheless, I check, and it's final 7 overtimes, over 159 points scored.
That's insane.
149, whatever.
Crazy.
Unbelievable.
By the way, Rashad Penny is the name of the San Diego State running back. So,
yeah, I think it does. The way the Heisman is now, it's almost about being on a really good team in a really good conference. I wonder if there will ever be, in the next 10 years, will someone outside of a Power 5 school win the Heisman?
That's an interesting thought. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the last person that was probably in it was that Jordan Lynch from Northern Illinois. Mm-hmm. But he didn't win. He was in the voting. But nonetheless, I think we're ready to dive into some picks here. Do we want to take a break, Ray?
Yeah, let's take a quick break and we'll dive into some picks.
To dive into some games here, I'm going to detail 4 picks. Ray with 2, and we do have a crossover game that we both picked. So I'll start us off here. For my first pick, I'm going to Indiana, where the upset-minded Hoosiers welcome the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan coming off a loss to rival MSU, as we said earlier. I think that is driving this line down a little bit, while Indiana got its first shutout since the 90s against Charleston 27-0. We know what we get with this Michigan team, an elite defense and an offense with a lot of question marks. This offense is only going to get better as the year goes on, as O'Korn has a job from here on out. I heard that Spate was out for the year, so don't know if there's any validity to that report, but nonetheless, O'Korn is going to be taking this game here. On the year, Michigan 84th on offense and number 1 in total defense, actually. Indiana is going to go with freshman Peyton Ramsey over senior Richard Legault. Having watched a few Indiana games, I think Ramsey is more fleet of foot, but I really do question his ability to make plays through the air. This will definitely limit their best player on offense, Simi Cobbs. I don't think he's going to be getting the ball as much with a quarterback that can't throw it as well. Coming into this game, Indiana ranks 47th in total defense and 69th. Shout out to 69ers out there in total offense.
Big 69 guy.
Yeah. Michigan still power in the Big Ten, and I think we're going to see some overreactions here with a team that somehow managed to surrender 5 turnovers last week. I think this subpar defense from Indiana will make things a lot easier for a struggling Michigan offense. Only thing holding me back here, Ray, from making this a premium play is Michigan travels to PSU next week, and in a game that has been circled for a while, so I question the look ahead. We saw that with Oklahoma, the Red River rivalry. They had Texas, this coming week, so I don't know if that's a look ahead. Nonetheless, I don't think Jim Harbaugh lets this happen. I think we take Michigan to cover the 5.5.
I like it. For me, I'm going to start off talking about a team that I just saw in person this last weekend, Ron, North Carolina. The Virginia Cavaliers are coming to town for an ACC matchup that features Virginia being favored by 3 points. Cavaliers 4-1, Tar Heels 1-5 on the year. The Cavaliers have recorded victories over William and Mary, UConn, a big win over Boise State and Duke. They got a balanced offensive attack led by QB Kurt Benkert. He's put up about 1,400 yards, 13 scores, and 3 picks. In their last 3 games, they've scored at least 28 points in every one of them, and at least 38 in 2 of the 3. Virginia has a quartet, Ron, of winnable games on the schedule, starting with this one. Before they hit kind of the tough part of their schedule of Louisville, Miami, Florida, Virginia Tech to close out the year. So, with 4 wins on the year, they want to get these wins and become bowl eligible when they can. Some numbers, trends for you. Cavaliers are 8-2-1 against the spread in their last 11 games following a win. And these wins haven't come a lot recently, so that's something noteworthy. They're 6-2 against the spread in their last 8 games following a straight-up win. Virginia is also 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 games in October. Big October guys. They are 7-3 ATS in their last 12 road games, so they get it done on the road. Meanwhile, Ron, the Tar Heels sport a 1-5 overall record and are 1-4 against the spread against teams with a winning record and 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 games overall. My point here is that the trends, if you're a big trends guy, the trends match up here. They were just inept on offense last week against Notre Dame, and I just see no reason why the Cavaliers don't get it done here. The Cavaliers should roll, take them with confidence at -3.
Shout out to Coach Stu here. For our next pick, this is going to be a game we both detail here. So, you know what? I'm going to read my thing, what I typed up when I reviewed this game, and then I'm going to let you read your thing. Just be interesting to see how much stuff overlaps. So, you can plug your ears while I talk about this game, but I would like you to just read what you wrote about this game. Last 2 weeks I've faded ECU. I think I'm going to do it until I lose. Going to take UCF -35 against visiting ECU. ECU is the worst Division I program, as I said in the past 2 weeks. UCF, on the other hand, looks to be legit. They blew out, they scored 53 points in 3 quarters last week. A lot of questions entering the season for this team, but they have answered and are a force to be reckoned with in the AAC. All their games have been blowouts, with the closest game being an 18-point win at Maryland, who's playing well at that time. UCF is in the top 25 in passing and rushing, while being ranked 11th in total defense, allowing only 15 points per game. ECU is trash. I'll continue to say that. Their QB still leads their team in rushing with a grand total of 145 yards. Like I said, this ECU team, you gotta fade them until it happens. Interesting thing with UCF, they had 3 games canceled due to the hurricane. So they're only 4-0. So They're fresh, but I'm gonna take 35 and probably do first half too, because this ECU team can't stop anybody.
Yeah, I saw the 34.5 when I looked about an hour ago. Yeah, I love this pick. The UCF Knights are led by QB Mackenzie Milton. He's completing about 68% of his passes for 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, including 8 of those in his last 2 games, Ron. They're averaging about 223 yards on the ground as well, and they've scored a combined 91 points in its last 2 games. Okay, the QB, Milton, he's obviously getting more comfortable. Combine this with the fact that their opponent, ECU, is one of the worst defensive teams in the country. They've allowed 34 or more points in every single game this season. During those 6 games, they're 1-5. They've also allowed their opponents to average over 600 yards of offense. And here's a good nugget for you, Ron. Allow them to complete almost 60% of third down chances.
Wow.
The ATS trends drastically favor the Knights as well. The Pirates of ECU are 1-7 against the spread in their last 8 road games. 5-22, Ron. 5-22 against the spread in their last 27 conference games, and 10-29 against the spread in their last 39 games overall. The Knights of Central Florida are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 home games, 6-2 against the spread in their last 8 conference games, and 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games overall. Okay, trends favor this team from Central Florida. Like this is, I love this play. I completely agree with you. I don't know if there's ever been a play that you and I have both endorsed like this.
I mean, I'm literally I hit with 2 weeks ago they played USF. They played Temple last week. I had both teams ATS with a lot of confidence. I had a lot of money on those games. They're just terrible. They're really, really bad, and I don't see it, man. They're so bad.
Well, like I said though, I mean, UCF's 4-0 on the year, like you said. They're 4-0 against the spread this year too, and East Carolina is one of the worst teams against the spread. So you have one of the best teams against the spread and one of the worst teams against the spread playing each other. I think it's a no-brainer.
I looked at preseason. I was looking at some win totals. UCF was set at 8. And I was like, damn, this really okay. Blake Bortles isn't there anymore. What's up with this? And I don't know. They seem legit. They might be the top non-Power 5 team. To get into one of the New Year's Six bowls. Interestingly enough, local boy Matt Wright is kicking field goals for them. I don't know if he still is, but he was to start the season. I think he was regarded as a potential NFL, caliber player entering the year. So that we have that going for us. I know Degenerate Carter will like that shout out, so we might have to share the podcast with him. But hope he can hit a field goal to cover for us or something. Any more plays from you, Ray? Before I jump into my dog of the week.
No, nothing. I did kind of like Auburn a little bit. I just still don't. I know LSU won. I don't trust this LSU team. I think Auburn's pretty good, and I kind of leaned to Auburn a little bit, but nothing official.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna head into that Auburn-Alabama game. Both teams are gonna. I mean, it's gonna be a pseudo conference championship game, really.
Hey, Mom! I'm done with my segment!
Nonetheless, here, I'm going to give you another Dog of the Week A, Dog of the Week B, and it just so happens they're from the same state. I'm going to fade Iowa State after their historic upset. I know I had envisioned myself when I gave this pick to play the rock, chalk, Jayhawk in the background, but nonetheless, Kansas Jayhawks. Jayhawks lost to this Iowa State team last year, 31-24. Peyton Bender quarterbacks this Jayhawks team, and he isn't terrible, throwing for almost 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns. Best player for this Jayhawks team is running back Khalil Herbert, rushing for 500 yards and 4 TDs on only 68 carries. We all know about this Iowa State team as they upset Oklahoma last week. As I said, Kyle Kempt had a historic day, throwing for 343 and 3 touchdowns. This has total letdown written all over it. These Iowa State kids are talking about this game and probably will be talking about that game for the rest of their lives. I think this game is much closer than the spread indicates, as Kansas has a decent offense. This line opened at 20.5. It's climbed north of 21. It's at 22 right now. I'd wait a little bit, and I think you take it. This game, I do not see this game being more than 2 touchdowns. Kansas, is a team the public loves to fade because they've been terrible for a while. They're actually they're not as bad as they've been, and this Iowa State team is not as good as they played last week. So I think this is the perfect storm to go ahead and take Kansas State. Kansas. I just previewed my next one. Another dog I looked at is Kansas State. That line opened at 4.5. It is now 6. And TCU comes to town. I just question this TCU team. They played the previous 2 weeks. They played 2 ranked opponents. I just wonder if that's going to take a toll on them. And now they have to go on the road against a Kansas State team that has been money over the past years against the spread. And, Snyder just prepares these guys so well. And, I just think that game has close game written all over it, if not a Kansas State outright upset. So, I'm going to say maybe you take the points with Kansas and take the money line with Kansas State. I'd like to think at least one of them hits. So I think we're going to take a break here. Ray, any thoughts on any of that before we jump into NFL?
No, I appreciate the 2 dogs of the week for you. And here's something completely...
Last time I did 2 dogs of the week, I hit with Colorado as the second pick. So want to know with my secondary dog of the weeks. But nonetheless, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say something non-football related baseball. John Lester just picked someone off at first base.
He did. It looked terrible, though.
That's unbelievable.
It was terrible.
Hey, it happened. So I got nothing else college football-wise in terms of plays. I feel pretty good about these 2, hoping the rebound. But, I like that you brought it to the table this week with 4. We're going to move on to some NFL picks here. The first thing that we want to do is just kind of recap some of the major storylines and games from last week. Some things that stood out to us, I guess. The first thing that I want to talk about right off the bat is the Steelers.
Terrible.
What's going on with this football team?
I question Ben. Did you hear what he said after the game?
I have some takes on that. Yeah, Ben said, "Do I have it anymore?"
Maybe he said, "Maybe I just don't have it."
Listen here. What's his face? Ryan Clark on ESPN. He obviously played for the Steelers. Played with Ben. Had an interesting take on that. He said, "Listen, he's like from someone that's been in the Steelers locker room. He's like, no one is taking that seriously." He said Ben was just always known for being dramatic, saying dramatic things like that, and then just coming back the next week and doing what he does. No one, I don't think that Steelers locker room's taking that seriously, according to what Ryan Clark says, for what it's worth. But here's the thing with this Steelers team. They have so much talent on the offensive side of the ball that, I just think at some point they're going to figure it out. Did that Le'Veon Bell holdout hurt them a little bit? Did, Antonio Brown being kind of vocal about stuff hurt them? Martavis Bryant coming in late, I wonder if just all of those things it's just taking them a little bit of time to click. But here's the thing, Ron. They're still 3-2, and they're still at the top of the AFC North. So they still control their own destiny.
And, they do play. You're a Steelers fan. I'm a Chiefs fan. They travel to Kansas City next week, and they tend to play really well against Kansas City in the regular season. So yeah,
I think Kansas City's a 3 or 4 point favorite. Would it shock you if the Steelers came out and played well and won that game outright? No, it wouldn't. But I don't want to put my money in that game right now, but it wouldn't shock me.
Chiefs again looking dominant on Sunday night. I hope they're not shooting their wad too early. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Another game that really, was watched by a lot of people, the Green Bay-Dallas game.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple takes on that.
We did have Green Bay money line.
We did have Green Bay money line, which was nice. Thank you for giving Aaron Rodgers over a minute to go down the field. People were talking about that fade ball that they threw to Dez Bryant that went incomplete, and then I think on the next play, Dak takes the read option, makes a great read, and runs it in and leaves him a minute to go. And I remember you texting me freaking out, and I was like, dude, there's time. It's Aaron Rodgers with a minute to go. Between him and Tom Brady, there's not many other people I'd rather have with the football in their hands. So glad to see Green Bay get that win and get us our money line victory.
Yeah, Seattle gets a good road division win, 16-10 over the Rams.
Yeah, that's a big win, and you guys talked about this on the show last week, like what to do here in this game. Vegas knew something. Seattle was still the favorite to win the division, so they came out with a big road win there.
1 second here.
Were you,
Ray, any more?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, were you impressed by Philadelphia, 34-7?
No, because I think the Cards suck.
Interesting. Will you ever be impressed with Philadelphia?
No, I think this Cardinals team is terrible. Not sure. I just don't know, man. Like, it's time to rebuild there, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'd like to use this as a transition to talk about games this week, and I'd like to start by talking about that Eagles game tomorrow night, Thursday. Today's Wednesday, talking about tomorrow night. Philly traveling to Carolina. Line is sitting at -3 right now. Carolina, what do you think about that game?
Good game. Good Thursday night game. It's been a while since we had a good Thursday night game. Potentially since week 1, but I don't know, man. I'm extremely biased when it comes to Philadelphia. Carolina did go on the road last week and win against the Lions.
As I said they would to you?
I think you side with the home team here. Carson Wentz can make plays, but I don't know. I just can't give any insight in a game like this where I hate the Eagles. So.
Well, that's fair. I think it's a good, like you said, it's a good Thursday night game. It's about time we finally got one. For me, if I'm betting this game, I'm probably going to take Carolina money line and look at what that is and kind of take the points out of it. But nevertheless, we'll see what happens. I really do think it's a coin flip game. I wouldn't be shocked to see either team win. So, I'm just looking forward to a good football game.
One thing we've done each week, we've given survivor picks. I think there's a lot of more larger lines this week. Last week was kind of tough. The largest spread was 8 with Pittsburgh, and a lot of people got knocked out. But you have Atlanta, Houston, New England is a large favorite, and on Sunday night you have Denver is a double-digit favorite. So I think you find one of those 4 that you still have left and take the best of that. Washington is also a double-digit favorite over San Fran.
Yeah, I think for me at this point, you probably have some people that have been knocked out with some of the upsets and things that have happened. To me, I mean, do you have it? If you're looking at these teams that have the big spreads, Atlanta, Washington, Denver, did I miss one? Houston, like most people probably have used Atlanta and probably have used Denver. Like, I think you got to look at taking, even if you haven't, I think you got to look at taking Houston or Washington here.
Yeah.
I would probably go ahead and take. I'd probably go ahead and take Houston.
It's too early to start. Like, I got to use a shitty team. Like, no, you just have to advance.
Well, I think there's an opportunity here with Houston at home against the Browns, and I don't know how much more you're going to have opportunities you're going to have like that with Houston. So.
Team looks rejuvenated with Watson.
Yeah, he's good. He's good, man. He's a good quarterback. He's a winner. Like, he gets it done.
That game against Kansas City, the score was a lot closer than indicated. Watson threw like 3 touchdowns really late to make that kind of close. But what was your teaser for this week? We had talked about it.
Yeah, we've been kind of giving out teasers, and I'm going to dive into this one right here.
I think there's a lot of options out there this week for teasers.
Absolutely, I agree, and I think that traditionally is your best route to go with NFL. I don't like to do teasers as much in college, but in the NFL, I like to go teasers. And this week, I'm actually going to kind of lay the chalk here with two of those big favorites that we talked about. Atlanta, Miami is visiting Atlanta. Atlanta -11.5 is what I have. And excuse me?
Miami is so bad.
Yeah, Miami is awful. And you have the Giants visiting the Broncos also at -11.5 for the Broncos. So you tease that. Yeah, both of these teams off of a bye. Atlanta off a bye. Broncos off of a bye. At home, you can get this down to 5.5, 4.5, depending on what type of teaser you want to do. But I think this is great. Miami's miserable on offense right now. Yeah, they got a win last week against the Mariota-less Titans. But Miami's kind of all over the place on offense. Ajayi's still kind of looking to get going. The Giants obviously lost Odell Beckham. They lose probably Brandon Marshall. Sterling Shepard's banged up. Like, Eli's getting hurt. Eli doesn't want to be there. Like, I just think this is a great chance to take two home favorites off of a bye against two teams that aren't playing well.
Yeah, I like it, man. There's so many options for teasers. I'm sure we'll cook up some other stuff moving forward. This might be a week where you do, a 3 or 4 team 6-point teaser, get plus money.
Right.
That's a decent week for that. One game I do that's sticking out to me: Detroit +5, visiting New Orleans. I think you don't even mess with the points. I think you take a chance with Detroit money line. I think they're a good team. I know you don't like them.
I don't say that. My thing last week was that Detroit I think they're an average football team. Statistically, they're like 20th on offense and 20th in defense. Matt Stafford just has a way of keeping games close kind of down at the end. This line actually opened up at about 3, and it's jumped up to 5 because everyone was betting New Orleans. So, public money all over New Orleans in this game.
I think this is a good chance to take the over, too.
50, yeah. Sure.
I don't know, man. New Orleans is terrible on defense.
Are there any, I know we don't really do a dog of the week with NFL, but, other than Detroit, are there any other dogs that you're looking at that you think that could potentially win outright that would be a good play?
You're going to kill me here, but and the only thing that's holding me back here, New England is off an extended break, but conference game traveling to the Jets, I don't sleep on that game. I mean, the Jets have looked okay. They are 3-2 actually, so their win total. If you bet over on the Jets, you're cashing that ticket, man. Both these teams have the same record, so Jets are second in the AFC East. Pats are third. So looking at the tail of the tapes, if you took away the teams and you saw one team was favored by 9.5, you kind of question that a little bit. But I'm sure the Patriots are ticking time bomb. They're just waiting to blow out anybody.
Yeah, the problem with the Patriots is really not their offense. It's been their defense. They had statistically one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And to me, having the week off, I think was a good thing.
Yeah.
I think this is where they get it going, and I actually completely disagree. I think that they blow the doors off of the Jets.
I'm not going to bet the Jets. I'm a little scared.
Yeah, I think they blow the doors off of them and kind of get back into form here. I think there's a reason that game is -9.5.
That's fair. A game I do like straight up. We don't give out a lot of straight picks, but Tampa Bay off an extended break again. 10 days traveling to Arizona. They're laying 2 points. Take the money line with Tampa Bay. This Cardinals team is so bad, and I'm sure they'll just come out and fire it. But Adrian Peterson will be interesting to see how much he plays, how many snaps he's on the field for. But I think Tampa Bay is a decent play. I don't like playing road teams.
I actually don't hate. You're gonna hate me for saying this. I probably wouldn't bet this game, but I don't hate Arizona in it. I just think that the Tampa Bay secondary is miserable. I think Carson and I think Arizona can play defense still. And Jameis Winston looks. I'm a huge Jameis guy. We both are. He's looked somewhat lost so far offensively, just not comfortable in the pocket, not making accurate throws. I don't know, man. I think Arizona could get this done, and it would not surprise me.
Tampa Bay does Martin back too, so
yeah, he looked great last week. He looked quick.
Minnesota is a home dog against Green Bay. Public overreaction from a Green Bay win. I think especially in that division, those games tend to be very, very close.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Chicago getting close to a touchdown might be enough against the Baltimore team. I don't know who's going to start at quarterback, but not impressed with Baltimore's offense. And Chicago, another team that's not as bad as people think.
Not to put you on the spot here, Ron, but at this point in the season, couple questions for you. Who would be your MVP at this point?
Kareem Hunt.
Really?
He's unbelievable, man.
I mean, that's a little. You don't think that's a little bit of a homer pick there?
I mean, it's either him or Todd Gurley. I don't know, man. I think Kareem Hunt is so much to that offense that I don't know. think he's really good. His missed tackles and his yards after contact is unbelievable.
Well, I think for sure he's the offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, no
Kareem
doubt.
Hunt, I think that's a no doubter. Of the teams here that might be struggling a bit, the Giants obviously they're 0-5. The Chargers are 1-4. Oakland 2-3. I'm just trying to I like a Tampa Bay's record here. I believe they're 2-2. Tampa Bay 2-2. Do you see what team do you see kind of turning it around? Like New Orleans 2-2. Like which of these teams do you see turning it around and kind of righting the ship a little bit?
I think when you look at that, I think you got to have strong QB play, which the Raiders do not have right now. But if they can somehow manage to be 500 when Derek Carr comes back, they could make a late surge to make the playoffs. I think they are potentially out of the division race already. Toughest division in football, in my opinion. And the Chargers, same team from the same division. Philip Rivers can get it done. Like I said last week, all their games have been within a field goal except their loss against Kansas City. I think not that they're gonna, they're not gonna win the division, but could they sneak into the playoffs? Could 3 teams from this division make the playoffs? It's happened before, so maybe those 2 teams.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think Carr might play this week. They're saying he might play this week, so I think that's the team that I think should kind of right the ship a little bit. Amari Cooper's kind of all over the place offensively. I don't know what's going on there. I think they just have a couple things to work out, and they should kind of get themselves back into form.
It'd be interesting to see how Dallas does moving forward too. Interesting.
As far as NFL goes, Ron, I don't really have too much more to talk about unless you have any other general topics or things that you were curious about.
No, I'm excited for another week here. Back to watching games.
Yeah, and to kind of put all things in perspective here, obviously I think I started off fairly well, and then you have turned it on lately, and I haven't been doing so hot. It'd be nice to see us both click here. We're kind of hovering around 500 overall as far as our plays go, so it'd be nice to see us both click this weekend and get it done. But I'm going to do my best to try to edit this show and put it all together. Obviously, when you're hearing it, listeners here, you're going to hear it in finished form. So I'm going to try my best to put this all together and see what I can do. But Ron and Ray signing off.
Time